Welcome to Paulstoolbox, the moment I've been waiting for, to start with the clear coat. That's the most fun part for me. And I'm using Stone Coat countertop material. This is an epoxy. If you've seen my other videos, you've seen me talk about it. This is a great product. Really durable. It's much more durable than your other epoxies, and you can mix other things in it really well. It's compatible. So what I'm going to do is pour a seal coat on here tonight. Okay, I'm gonna wait 8 hours, so I'll just let it go tonight. Tomorrow morning I will come out here and pour another seal coat. Tomorrow evening put another one 8 hours later, and then the next day is when we put the flood coat. The reason why we're doing that is because wood is porous and it can let out air bubbles. It'll trap the air bubbles or air inside of the grain, and especially grainy woods like oak. That's one that'll really hold stuff in, bubbles. And what happens is if you pour too thick of a coat on there, those bubbles will come up and you'll get rid of them. They come back and they keep coming back and it'll be frosty looking. You don't want that. You want this thing to be crystal clear. So we're going to do 3 seal coats on this since it is wood. If it was going over some kind of solid surface, you don't have to worry about that. But porous wood and is going to have those bubbles trapped in there. Now, if I painted it with a heavy coat of paint, then of course you don't have to do that as much. You'll put 1 seal coat and then come back with a flood coat. But when you put your seal coat on here, 1 ounce of this per square foot. So I'm going to take a ½ ounce of this and a ½ ounce of the next one. One is your epoxy or resin, and the other is your hardener. So you'll take a ½ ounce of each, make an ounce, mix it up per square foot. So I'm going to need 3 of them for this, 3 full ounces or fluid ounces. So we're going to go ahead and pour it in this little cup, and I'm going to use my trusty drill with a paddle on here that's plastic. I really like this. I got this at Lowe's, but I'll get a link for you so you can check it out. This is great for mixing because it's plastic and you don't get chunks in there or anything. If you hit the sides of this, you won't gouge it and then have little chunks of plastic in there that can mess it up. So let's go ahead and get this together. One other thing, I use tack cloth to wipe this down and make sure I don't have any dust in there. If you have a little bit of dust that comes on this, for your seal coat, that's okay. You're going to lightly sand this in between coats anyway, and I use 200 grit sandpaper when I do that. So we'll take and mix this up, spread it on here with your seal coat. Mike, the owner of Stone Coat, recommends using a squeegee. I don't have a squeegee with me, and I've used these in the past and they work well for me. He knows more about this than I do, so if you do have a squeegee, listen to him and do that. Me, I'm going to use my plastic Bondo spreader because it works for me, and like I said, I have dozens of these. My measuring cup does not show 1 ounce at a time. It only goes from 4 up. So I took just a dry erase marker and I put my lines right here for 1, 2, 3 ounces, and then of course it starts at 4. So if I mess up, all I have to do is wipe it off. It comes right off with the dry erase. I'm going to start off with my resin. Pour that in. Like I said, I really like this stuff by Stone Coat. It's much better than the regular stuff that I've used. I found it to be a lot more scratch resistant, a lot more durable, and of course heat resistant, which the other ones are nowhere near as heat resistant as this is, at least the ones that I've used. I went a little bit over that, so I'll just go to 4 ounces on this. It'll still work fine as long as I'm even on it. You want to have this mixed 50-50. Don't have it off because you'll have trouble with it drying. It could get gooey or it could get too hard too fast. So you really want to take this and mix it right. I'll keep a little acetone on the side to wipe the resin and stuff off of my fingers when they get gummy, if I get some on them. But right now we're going to go ahead and mix this puppy up. I'm using my Rockwell drill, which I really like. Any cordless drill will work. This one's just mine. You see how it's white and not clear? and that's because it's all full of bubbles. Once I get those out, it turns crystal clear. You may not be too impressed with this first coat, but it's not supposed to impress you. It's the flood coat that's gonna really show it. On here, it's just not gonna look very good. And you know, I'm glad I went with 4 ounces because I do have some cavities here. I ground out for the grain, and it's gonna kind of fill in those too, and that's gonna eat up some of my stuff. So I'll just put a real thin coat on here, trowel it around. You can roll off the edges, that's fine. And this is just a real thin coat. All it's for is to seal it, like I said. All we're doing is sealing it, so it doesn't have to be all perfect. Now you want to keep dust in this room down to a minimum. Do not have any fans or air blowing around here because little bitty dust particles will show up on this. And it's not as important on this coat, but the flood coat, you don't want any dust at all moving in the room. You want to leave it in a room where it can be by itself and you won't have it disturbed. Look how fast these bubbles come out. Those I'm going to hit a couple times because I really don't want to hit a lot on this because it's real thin and I don't want to burn my wood. This is a MAP gas. It's much hotter than your regular propane too, so I'm just careful. Don't sit on one spot, you will burn it. If you have stubborn sections with bubbles like this that aren't coming up, let me show you. Well, those are starting to come up now. But if that's not coming, it's still frosty, just disturb it a little bit and you'll knock those bubbles around and it raises them to the top. Now I can come back over and just fan it and you'll see they'll get clear. It's all still wet. It's gonna level out. You don't have to worry about that. So go ahead and poke around on it and help them rise to the top. Sometimes you got to wake them up. You can't mess it up at this point because if you do, all you have to do is lightly sand it and you can go back over it. So don't sweat it. I'm gonna let it sit now, it's fine. So what I'm gonna do is wipe off everything that I'm using with acetone. I'll just wipe off my fins. That's what I really like about this type of paddle. It's so easy to clean. The little bit that might get in between the grooves, you can wipe them out real easily with acetone, and this will be ready to go tomorrow. On the ends, it really, you have some real dry spots and all. That's because it's soaked in. That's why you want to do more than one seal coat on there, because it is going to soak it in on the porous ends, especially the end grain. When you get to this end grain, it's going to soak it in. So, we'll put a couple more coats of this, and the next ones, like I said, are going to be real fast. This only takes a couple of minutes to lay out your next coats, seal coat. I'll take my sticky back, put back on here because I'm going to use it for my next coat. I just take a regular shop rag and wipe off most of it. Just make sure you get the dust out of those little grooves. That's why I'll wipe it with this. And then I'm going to come back over with a tack cloth. That's it. You saw how much easier this one was than the last one, and the next one will be a little easier than this, and then we'll be ready for that flood coat. I'm bringing the camera down to eye level so you can see what I'm talking about. There's little waves and splotches all over here. It's looking rough, but that's okay. All of that is going to come out. I'm going to be using a Worcester brush right here. This really helps to knock it down, and this is a throwaway brush. It's about $6, but it's well worth it when you're doing this. It really helps out when you're laying out this top. And these are tricks that I learned from Mike, the owner of Stone Coat. So it did make my job easier, and I want to pass it on to you. I'll have all of this stuff in the description box. Also, I'm using a trowel, a 1/8 by 1/8 trowel. This is a trowel for glue when you're putting down wood floors. So you can get it in the wood laminate section of Lowe's, Home Depot, or Menards, or any other hardware place that has it, should have that trowel. That's going to space it out and get it on there real well. And then you come back over with this and you knock out all the marks. So let's get on this thing. Okay, let's pour it. You take the brush, I'll load it up just a little bit. Just all I'm doing is knocking it in here, and it gets rid of all the trowel marks. This is all going to level out. Once I get some of this air out of here, you're going to see some pretty cool stuff that we're going to do with it. So stick with me on it. We've got a little time to work with this. You want to keep that temperature around 70, 75 degrees or so. I'm a little below 70. I wanted to keep a little cooler in here because it's real humid down here in New Orleans right now. And I wanted to get as much humidity out of the air in this shop as I could. All right, looking good. I'm gonna go ahead and torch some of it, let you get an idea of how it looks when it starts clearing up. This grain is starting to come out and really look good up underneath there. You can also take your brush on spots that aren't breaking up like this, and just break them up a little bit, and it pops those bubbles a little more and makes it easier for you to draw them out. But it all comes out. It'll all work its way out in the wash, believe me. If the bubbles don't come out right away, we let it sit because it's getting a little hot. You want to make sure you don't overheat it. Don't sit in a spot and burn it, because this torch gets real hot and you can burn it. But I can see these bubbles just popping all over the place when I go over it. So I'm going to let it sit for a minute and explain a couple other things to you, and then we'll come back to it and hit it again. Let some of those bubbles rise right now. This is a metallic powder. This metallic powder comes in a little baggie like this. Stone Coat sells it. This is $15 for this little packet. It goes a long way. You take half of that packet and put it in an 8-ounce jug like this, or 8 ounces of it with alcohol, 91% alcohol. You can get that at Walgreens, CVS, any one of your drugstores. So 91% alcohol, you mix with that, you shake it up, and now this will last as long as the alcohol lasts. As long as it doesn't evaporate, if you have it sealed, it's going to last a long time. You see the alcohol, when you hit it with that, you'll see it kind of catch on fire, of course, but then it'll start kind of going in. And that gold will go right into it. Let's streak it in a little bit, get it on the ends. I like to see it there. And then I want to put some a little bit into the grain, but we're going to just work this out. See how it's going to flow over? Pretty cool stuff. I'll take it on a couple of these spots with some grain. Let's see. You can kind of work it where you want it to go. I don't really want it on the sticker so much, so I want to pull it away from that, and we'll pull it down. It's going to give that three-dimensional look because it's going to be mixed in, not at the bottom, not at the top. It's kind of like in the middle. On the sides, it's going to run down and run off of it, so you won't have all gold, but it'll look good. She's all done, and it came out like glass. What we're going to do now is put the legs on. I took the legs and I screwed them into a board. I just drilled that just like I did this, and put the legs in it so I could put my clear coat on there and easily cover all four sides. I could spin the top a little bit and just roll around on it. This one's really tight right now. It's hard to turn it all the way, but I can take this and just line it up and get it exactly where I want it. I need to pull this all the way around. And there's no way I'd be able to twist it all the way around like that unless I had something on here. Now that baby ain't going anywhere. Let me tell you a little bit about this epoxy. This stuff is super durable. It's easy to fix, and it's hard to mess up. If you make a mistake on this while you're pouring it, all you have to do is lightly sand it and come back over with another coat. So the worst thing you'll do is have a thicker coat, and it's actually going to look more deep than it would be if you put less coats. So it's a win-win as far as I'm concerned. Any DIYer can do this. I did it, so I'm telling you, anybody can do this. And if you have problems, give me a shout. Now here's another thing. Stone Coat Countertops has agreed to give me 2 kits to give away. So we're going to be choosing from the first 50 comments that we get on this video. And if you drop a comment on us and you're chosen, all you do is you give me your information and we'll have it shipped out to you from Stone Coat. Also, we're going to have a coupon code for you guys. So you saw the gold that I put in here? He has all types of colors. Check it out at stonecoatcountertop.com, and you can pick out 2 different metallics when you order a kit with my code, and they'll give you those metallics for free. Those metallics cost $15 each, so that's a $30 saving right there. I love that about this guy. He's willing to help out in any way he can, and he sells a great product. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out Paulstoolbox.com for all my archive videos. If you don't mind, hit like. And I will see you guys on the next project.